got my insulation. Probably should have showed you that. It's simple. It's just a tube insulation. I just slipped it over one end, and then I just twisted the two wires together flatly. Not the twisty ties, but I kind of crossed them over each other like this, so they're still flat and smooth. And I've got my soldering material here, and my soldering iron has been warming up. And I think it's ready for me to put some soldering on this bad boy. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to warm up the material, the surface. Just kind of place my soldering gun on there. Plus there's excess junk still on the soldering iron tip. Okay. Then I just solder away. There we go. All right. So that is it for the soldering iron. Make sure you unplug it if you're done. If not, don't unplug it because it takes a while to warm up. Then the next piece is I'll let this cool for a few minutes. Get this out. Bring this wire back out. There, it looks pretty solid. The next thing I need to do is to take this rubber insulation and just slide it up now over it. I know you can't see that, but actually I'll show you. This is the insulation. It's a little tube, and I had it down here the whole time. Make sure you do it first or else you can't get it on. Then I just slip it on to about halfway, like that. And then I will hit it with a heat gun, and you'll see how I do that. And it shrinks right up. Okay. And it starts to react right away. Now the only problem here is the rubber that I'm using, or the insulation I'm using, is probably too big for this application. So I'm putting on a little extra heat on there. That's because I was out. I don't want to get too hot because I don't want to mess up the alternator. Not that that would really affect it, but just to be safe. All right, it should do it. Check it. Yeah, it's still a little warm. That's okay. It's not too hot. What you'll do is you'll start your tape off of the insulation and where the wire meet, and then simply just wrap it. Because the last thing I need is to be stranded. All right. So I have now taped that up. And we are ready to make our connections. Well, first thing is I'm gonna tilt the alternator back, mainly because I need to get to that bolt. I had to make another modification on the back here. The eyelet I got was too big, but to meet the gauge requirement, it had to be that big. So I ended up having to trim down some of the plastic, but I needed to make sure I put a washer under the bottom of this and a washer on the top of this to keep it from grounding out on the outside of the alternator. Should do just fine. Okay, now I've finished doing the wiring. I've now set it back in the cradle. I had to get it out a little bit to make that modification I told you about. So I am now just trying to mirror this electrical wires out of the way. I'm going to use this busted bolt as a guide. There we go. Make sure I've got that centered up. And there we go. And I will tighten this bad boy down. And then all I've got to do now is go get this additional bolt, and I may end up getting a nut and a washer just in case it stripped out the inside of the bracket. I don't want to make two trips. Okay, and then I gotta make this reconnection of this. If you remember when we took this off, gotta reconnect the power, and then reconnect the hose. And I'm gonna get some zip ties, try to keep those wires out of the way. Where's that white wire? Let's run this up. And ready to put another one over here. Nope, looks like that's being held pretty good. All right, so that is 90% of the replacement of the alternator. The only thing left to do is replace this bolt and put the fan belt back on. Hey, I'm back from Ace Hardware where I picked up this bolt, and I did get a washer and a nut. All I do is just slip it in there. I hadn't even tightened it up all the way. So I'm going to tighten that up. Then I'm going to re-put the belt back on and then start this puppy up. So I'll let you see that process here in a second. Gotta tighten this bad boy up. Get it initially tight, and then we have to give another wrench to get around the back. All right, it's time for get a wrench around the back. Didn't have time to put my coveralls on. Or I guess I should say I didn't take time to put my coveralls on. There we go. That should do it. All right. This will give me a little more oomph on it anyway. Okay. Okay. I just gotta check and make sure that all the belts are on where they're supposed to be. So far, they appear to be. All right, we're gonna say they are. I'm gonna reconnect the battery and then start this puppy up, and then we are gonna disconnect the battery to make sure we're getting a charge. All right, we're gonna assume that's all tight. Let's go see if we can get this bad boy started. All right, so we are power switch, put on the brake. Seems to be running. Seems to be charging. Disconnect the battery to make sure that we are actually getting running on alternator power. Let's see what happens. Okay, so far so good. We'll check and see what kind of amperages we're getting. Well, we are getting a lot more amps than we used to get, so it's running pretty solid. So power-wise, we definitely have more power. I'm going to reconnect the battery. I think we're confident that we are running on alternator power. Now I'm going to reconnect the battery. Okay, so we'll take it for a test ride.